Good morning. How's everybody doing? Good, good. Well, I'm so excited to kick off this, our third and final day of Inc. Founders House here at South by Southwest in Austin with two great entrepreneurs who've built an amazing brand and have an amazing story to tell, Stephen and Allison Ellsworth. So let's give them a big round of applause.
Good morning, good morning.
So now help me with the timeline. How long has it been since you sold Poppi to Pepsi for $1.9 billion?
It's been a year this week.
Wow.
Which is crazy if you actually think about it. We're like, wait, has it been that long? So.
Yeah, a year and 2 days. No one's counting.
Well, speaking of counting, I've asked you this before, but I'm sort of curious if you could tell us, what was it like the day you closed the deal as founders? What went through your minds as co-preneurs as well? And then what went through your mind the day the check cashed?
Yeah, wow. We'll take ourselves back
He's
there
looking
a
at
little
me
bit.
like, who's taking that one?
Yeah. I'll take the signing, you take the closing. Two interesting stories, but the signing was actually quite magical. I think there's so much that goes into selling the business. So much diligence. While we weren't officially on the market, we were sort of like courting and dating some of these acquirers for a year and a half, and so it's exhausting. And each month is the most important month. You've got to over-deliver the revenue as you build up to it. So I think the day of signing was really great. We were actually in Newport Beach at this place I've been going to for 30 years, and we were surrounded by our kids and our family. So it was a really special moment.
And then
you have to wait a really long time till the money hits because the government has to approve it. And so you're just sitting on the edge of your seat. What, it was like 60 days?
Yeah, 60 days.
Around 60 days. Longest 60 days of my life. The money, it's time to hit the bank account. And you're sitting there and you're hitting refresh. And then you're still on calls because you're still running a business, right? It's not like you just can take the day off, even though we tried to take the day off. And so, and it's so funny because we both have our own equity in the company, right? It wasn't like a combined, so then the money hits, it was mine that hit first, which is really funny. And then he's like, refresh. And we were like, let's go to lunch. And it was this whole thing. We ended up getting in like one of the biggest fights ever because we didn't take time to celebrate. And we went to bed the next day, we woke up, we're like, well, that was dumb. Our lives are kind of the same. Our kids were still screaming the next morning. And so we cleared and went to lunch and then got back to work, right? Like at the end of the day, it hits, but then you still got work to do.
So talk about the work to be done, right? So you are in the process of, it sounds like, dating some potential acquirers, hearing what people have to say. And then at the same time, you're running a business that you intend to keep growing and that has huge upside and growth potential. Poppi was just on its way up the hockey stick. How did you balance the two? How did you balance thinking about the opportunities to grow yourselves versus the opportunities to grow through an acquisition?
So what's fun about selling your company is when they sell it, we're the only two people that didn't, quote unquote, get jobs. Which you're like, wait, what? So they give everybody jobs at Poppi that wanted to stay. And we moved over to advisory roles because you don't sell your company like, here's your Pepsi badge, right? Like it just doesn't work that way. And I don't think you like fully internalize that until like that moment hits. And then you move over to advisory, which is like, you don't, sell your house and tell everyone where to put the couch. And so we had to learn to influence even more as leaders from afar, which was, somewhere we'd been working on for a really long time, but it was kind of fun to just see Poppi survive and thrive without us as well. So you're like kind of like proud parents. But, there is a lot of work to be done, right? There's integration into Pepsi system, which is a lot of work to be done. It's not allowing the marketing to have a missteps, allowing us to say Poppi, keep Poppi. And so it's this fine balance of like how much do you help and how much do you let it thrive?
No, I think that's the right balance. At the end of the day, we built this company not just to sell it and to get rich, but we really were on this mission to revolutionize soda for the next generation. And so this day was inevitable for us because I think a great example is we were the official soda of the LA Lakers, which is amazing. But we actually couldn't sell our product in the stadium because it was under a contract of one of the big red trucks or blue trucks. And so it was really important for us to align with a strategic partner that was willing and able and excited to carry on this legacy and to really revolutionize soda. And so I think that's the position that we've moved into, is how can we support the team and how can we bring the best out of both the Pepsi people and the Poppi people to continue to bring on this mission of revolutionizing soda.
If we go back, let's say 2 years or maybe even further, how did you as co-founders have the conversation with each other about, what is our plan and who's open to acquisition when, and which acquirer, what would you look for in an acquirer? Like, how did you begin to map that out?
I think Allison and I were largely aligned from the beginning, and we had a lot of great partners, investors around the table as well, that wanted to make sure that it was the right time. I don't think we sat down and said, hey, we have these 5 criteria that the business needs to meet, these 5 criteria that the acquirer needs to meet. It was really, we were in the business every single day. We knew the business intimately, and so we sort of felt and knew when the time was right. It was the business at scale? Was the team fully built out enough? So as we went through the transition, it was large enough to be focused on in the Pepsi network. And I think that was super, super important to us. But we actually had the opportunity to be acquired, I think 3 times prior to the Pepsi deal. And Pepsi was actually at the table prior, and it just wasn't the right time. And so I think in our heads, we knew what the criteria was. We just had never mapped it out on a piece of paper.
I think a lot of people don't realize, especially in beverage, there's only a few people that can actually buy you. Because you want partnership when it comes to distribution. And a lot of people are like, well, you could go IPO, but you still don't have that distribution. We couldn't be in like the Lakers stadiums. We couldn't be in the Jersey Mikes of the world, right? And so you can also get too big to be bought. Right? And so it's that fine balance of, we were growing like crazy. We went from like 0 to 500 million in 4.5 years. If we were going to double the business, it's a lot easier to get acquired as a $500 million company versus a $1 billion company. And so you're kind of juggling. What do you do here? Who's the right buyer? What's the right valuation? How do we do best by our employees? So, I mean, it was probably 1.5 years of conversations and dating and going through all of this until we kind of got what we wanted, which was 100% purchase. A lot of times they'll also purchase 30% of the company, and there's a lot of things tied to it. And, we got really lucky with the partnership.
Why was 100% of the purchase something you were looking for?
It's because a lot of times they'll do like a 2-step, and then you have to hit certain goals to be able to get the second part of the business bought.
Like an earn-out or something?
Yeah, like an earn-out. And it's harder for like people like me and Stephen, who are the founders, and it's like 1 foot in, 1 foot out, and it's like, how do you continue to grow the business within the system and keep it? It's quite a bit messier, and you consistently see that second tranche sometimes doesn't happen.
Yeah, they put guardrails around how you operate the business. Marketing spend can't go over X percentage of gross revenue. Trade spend can't, headcount, et cetera, EBITDA thresholds. So we felt like we were in better control of the business to get it to where the acquirer did want to actually buy 100%.
So it's like keep growing, but there are all these rules about how you grow, which make it tricky.
Keep growing, but...
Yeah. That's interesting. I'm sort of curious, who were really important advisors to you, both formal advisors inside the company, your board, other folks like that, and then who is there someone who gave you just like a really interesting piece of advice that stuck with you that really helped inform the way you approach this process?
One of my favorite people inside of the company, he's a little bit of a mentor to me, maybe unofficially. I don't know if he knows this yet.
We're breaking news.
Yeah, breaking news. His name is Josh Gittler. He was our CFO at Poppi. He grew up as an investment banker at Jefferies. He went on to Amplify, sold that business. He went on to Nutrabolt C4, helped structure that deal for KDP and Nutrabolt, and then came over to Poppi. So he's got quite the track record. But I think he's just very, very thoughtful in his approach, and so I think he gives a lot of really great objective guidance. He can be a bit of a curmudgeon, but like when he's on your side, it's the best thing ever. He gives great advice.
And you guys are optimists, so maybe a curmudgeon's helpful, right?
Yeah, exactly. You need the balance.
Yeah.
Yeah, he always says, like, you want Josh on, like, your side. I would not want to be on the side. But what piece of advice did he give you? Because I think it's interesting that, like, as founders, we allow, like, leaders around us to inspire us. I think you get to C-suite where you're like, okay, I'm always having to be the one to be the bigger person and lead and set the example. And sometimes that's hard, right? At the end of the day, we're all human and we have bad days. And so I think we were really lucky to have early on got a deal on Shark Tank. Obviously, that absolutely changed our lives. And going through that process really transformed the business. And so I think we were able to have great outside advisors from that. And then I agree, as entrepreneurs, you don't start a company knowing how to lead. You actually have to learn how to lead by example, by listening to podcasts, by listening to other leaders lead, by failing, and then picking yourself back up again. And so I love that we were able to put together such an incredible insane team at Poppi, and I really think that's what set us apart from our competitors is the operational excellence that we had inside and the leadership and the so many years of CPG experience, because spoiler alert, we had none when we first started, right? And now we've learned so much.
I'm curious, so this is a tricky process for any entrepreneur or pair of founders to navigate. Was it easier or harder, or what was the experience like doing that as founders who are so public? And you have such a big presence, first on social and then through Shark Tank and other venues. What was it like doing this with the world watching in a really transparent way?
I mean, I actually think that was our secret sauce and allowing us to be awkwardly authentic online. And I really think that embarrassment is the most underexplored emotion when it comes to success, and that you kind of do have to put yourself out there and look stupid for a while. And then you learn from it, and then confidence comes, and then the community connects with you. Because at the end of the day, it goes back to that human piece of we are, pretty normal people. We have 3 kids. I remember yesterday I was just trying to get ready to go South by. I got hit in the head 3 times with a basketball by my 3 boys. And it's screaming at them, timeout 3 times this morning. It's at the end of the day, people want to be wait, they're just like me. And I really feel with our lives, we shared so much through the years that I think it even came into the culture of Poppi. We had fun. We were working so hard. Poppi is one of the fastest, if not the fastest growing beverage in the history of beverage. And we had so much fun. And I don't ever feel like I burnt out, even though I was working 80 hours a week. We were doing, spreadsheets in the bed sheets every night after the kids went to bed. And it's this life of we allowed people in. And I think it added value for us post-exit as well, to be able to stay on and advise and support and see that legacy live on.
So I'm curious, you get the check first, you get the check soon thereafter. You're obviously continuing to work with Poppi and Pepsi to some degree. Can you talk about what that experience is like? And then I want to talk about what's next.
Yeah, I think our roles are a little different, so I'll speak for myself. I was really on the product operations side of things, and so I transitioned pretty quickly out of the business. And as a strategic advisor, I'll advise on what the innovation pipeline looks like. I'll be in the lab testing the flavors, making sure that they're up to our standards. And then I think a lot of it is just really spending time with the team. They're going through a lot of transition. We thought there was going to be less work transitioning into Pepsi, but they've actually had more workload now transitioning in. So it's just really the moral support, showing our appreciation for what they're doing.
I like that notion that's you sell out to a much larger company, it will make things easier, and there will be economies of scale, and actually it's economies of work, extra work.
Yeah, it's 3 meetings to have a meeting to have 3 more meetings. So
corporate life. What about you, Allison?
Yeah, I think what a lot of founders don't talk about is the post-exit blues of where you exit and you're going 80 hours a week, nonstop, running through doors, killing yourself to now wait, it's quiet, right? And having to learn just that balance. And so the feeling that I had post-exit was such an overwhelming feeling of freedom to do what I want with whomever I want when I want. But with freedom, that doesn't give you a lot of purpose. And so I had to find the balance of, I was like crazy at Poppi. Like I approved like every coupon, and like I ran our creative and brand. So I was like in it, like deep dark hole in it, to like now having to be like really above and trusting the team, and like that balance internally at me of like, oh, don't mess up my baby, right? And so you're going through all of this, and what I found the most healthy thing was to actually like really step away, and let them fail if they're going to fail without me, because at the end of the day, if they succeed, then I did a good job as a leader, and I feel like we did good with that. So post exit, we did, everyone's like, what was your first purchase post exit? And it was us going to Europe for a month with our family, because we had really never been on a vacation in like 10 years. And it allowed us to not be on Teams and Zooms and Slacks. And so then when we got back, I was like, how can I support? And I was able to come in on the Super Bowl, for example, that we just did with Charlie XCX, and really like come in with a clear head, because I wasn't so deep. So it was really, like, hey, I think we should do this. And it was like a new mindset, and it was really refreshing. But I actually feel like I had to step back to allow myself to kind of like take a breath, and now I'm just like loving it. I shot Starbucks content with the team this week. We just launched in Starbucks. I was at Pepsi HQ this week, which is crazy, thinking that was Monday and this is Sunday. And so it's really fun to be like high level strategy, and it's also healthy for the team.
Before we go on to what's next, though, I feel like I should ask, what was it like working with Charlie XCX?
Okay, she's so hardworking and so nice, so real. And I don't know if any of you guys saw her movie, The Moment, but she's like an actual actress. And so we would be able to give her feedback, and she would do it different and be totally into it. And then on socials, we've worked with a lot of talent over the years at Poppi. And something that you have to keep in mind when you work with talent is some of them don't run their socials, and some of them don't know even their logins. And she knew her social. She's social first. She's digital first. She was just, and it's so refreshing to work with someone. And Rachel, we worked with Rachel as well, and same. I recommend if you're don't work with someone that doesn't work with socials, because one, it doesn't work as good. But it was wildly successful, and I think to that point, Pepsi still allowed us to do a Super Bowl at the end of the day that we were just like, it's just vibes. And I think it shows that they are allowing us to just kind of stay Poppi.
Well, that's great. That's great. So now, as you have time to breathe, although it sounds like you were in 3 cities in 3 days, but you have, in theory, more time to breathe. So as you look around, what are opportunities that are interesting to you? Are you more interested in investing or maybe starting another thing? Do you imagine starting something together, or do you imagine doing things separately? I'm sort of curious, as you begin to approach like what the future looks like, how are you having that conversation?
I think it's all of the above.
Busy people.
Yeah, Allison said it. We're not in retirement. We're in preferment. You work on what you want, with whom you want, when you want, and I think it's really, really exciting. At the end of the day, working on something you love is really invigorating, and we always say, like, if you work on something you don't like, it's called stress. If you work on something you love, it's called passion. And so I think we're like really embracing this era of being able to work on what we want. Right after we sold, I thought I was going to be this amazing investor. Turns out I actually hate investing.
Why?
I think I like to control. Can I say that? No.
Yeah. You can say anything you want.
No,
it's hard working through other people.
It is. Like, I'm not as great at like influencing, I guess. And like, so that's maybe a skill set that I still need to work on. But I think at the end of the day, the thing, regardless of control, the thing that I get the most excited about is having an idea and bringing it to life. It's really creative. Like, it scratches that creative itch that I have. To just create and build things in the world. And so that's what we're turning our sights to. And I think that we're both excited about it. But I also think it's great because we're doing other things. And I think we're able to work on all of these various passions while also building a business again.
Yep.
Yeah, and to that point, whatever we do, we will absolutely do it together, because something that we found in partnership, yes, of course, in life, but in business, is we do things that are very different. We've been able to kind of like figure out our superpowers. I get to do like the creative brand. He does, all the boring stuff. And it works great, and we stay in our lanes, right? And so with whatever we do, look, you need the boring stuff. I love you, babe. But we'll do it together. And I think it goes back to that purpose piece that I said earlier. We, know our purpose is building great brands. And so we are so excited for what's next, and we are absolutely going to start another company, and you guys will just have to stay tuned of when and that happens, but who knows?
I love it. Well, let me ask this. Assuming that the next company that you start is sort of a brand as opposed to another kind of company that doesn't have as strong a consumer brand, how do you think about, would your brand sort of feel like Poppi, because Poppi had such a distinct and specific voice? Or how would you think about it being a little bit different from Poppi?
I love that question, because I think what we did at Poppi, from the marketing, being one of the first brands on TikTok, building that grassroots up, that way of marketing cannot almost be redone. 5 years ago is a long time, right? And so having to figure out what's next, I think, is really important for us to not just do the same playbook. But what we do know is a lot more things this time, right? We know how to run a business. I think if you are starting a company, you should actually start with an org chart before you even have a name.
Talk about that.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like you want the best people around you, and I love the lesson that we've learned as entrepreneurs is we used to do every single job and think it. Now we see like how powerful it is if you have a baller team doing stuff that you're not that good at, right? And so I think like that's a really good piece of advice if you're looking to start a company is like hire quick, hire way quicker, hire like 2 steps ahead of what you need. If you think you need a coordinator, get a manager. If you think you need a manager, get a director, and so forth. And I just think that like people take that for granted is like that piece, and then we have the knowledge of the manufacturing piece and the branding piece. So for me, it would be not something niche, because like at the end of the day, people are like always trying to do some like weird like little niche thing that like 10% of America will get, and that was apple cider vinegar for us. Like that's how we started, right? So we went from apple cider vinegar to revolutionizing soda for the next generation, and I'm like, that is so much cooler, yet it's the same liquid, right? And so I think whatever it is, we'll take all these learnings forward, and hopefully someone can learn from what we did. Don't copy it, take it and build on it.
And how do you think about the future brand that you might create and how you would differentiate it?
Yeah, I think Allison nailed it, and I'll say it in words that aren't quite so eloquent as hers. I feel like you're either growing or you're dying. There ain't no third direction, and I think it's the same thing with the brand as well. The world is continually evolving, so what worked 5 years ago isn't going to work now. And I think that it has everything to not only do with brand, but the type of business. Like the economy, the world that we live in is completely different. I think it's our jobs as founders, as entrepreneurs, to find out what's changed and how we can use those as tools to influence the way that we build a brand, that we build a team, that we run the business, what type of verticals we're approaching, our go-to-market strategy, all of that stuff. And so I think that the playbook that we had at Poppi, the framework, I believe, will work because we were moving at the speed of culture. We were always looking at what's next and how can we continually be innovative. I think that that's the playbook that works. But if we're going to look at it and say, hey, we did activity A, activity B, activity C, now let's do that now, I just don't think it's going to work.
I'm curious. I mean, Allison, you sort of touched on this, but I want to follow up a little bit. Like, what were some of the most stressful or least pleasant, least fun aspects of scaling a company to that size the first time? And then as you think about like future ventures, how would you try to like, would you be able to avoid those, or the types of things that you have to do? How would you sort of structure a future business around not having the same level of pain?
I think it goes back to the team piece. Any entrepreneur you talk to, they'll say like, I can't find people to hire, like good people. And I think one of the most painful moments, but one of the most incredible moments of growth for me personally was, I think we were at like 200 million in revenue-ish. Poppi was on fire. We went from like 200 to like almost 500 the next year. It was just crazy growth. Like crazy growth. And I remember being like, are we going to do a Super Bowl? And we were like talking through this, and we realized, I was like, I've never bought a Super Bowl ad before. Like, I don't know how to do that. And it was that moment where I was like, wait, I need help. Like I actually don't think I can run the marketing team anymore. And so we got together with the board and we decided to bring someone in. And the first person we brought in was a disaster. It was like 6 months. We ended up firing her. She was horrible. But that brought us to someone else that we'd been begging to come on for almost like a year. And he came on, and what it allowed me to do was my superpower of being the visionary, the disruptor, the creative. And that came through me emotionally having to step back and say, wait, I need help. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs aren't willing to do that because they let their ego get in the way of growth, right? And so with that, I think it's made me a better leader and a better mom and a better wife and all of these things, just allowing people to help you. And so going forward with that, I think that that's really taught me the value of, one, your employees are not your family, right? Don't say, oh, that's the Poppi fam or my family, right? You can be friends, you can go to their weddings, you can do all of that stuff. That's not what I'm saying. But professionalizing a business is just as important as the brand and the marketing, like having true process, having tools in place. It's the most important thing you can do. Whereas before, if someone sent me an agenda, I was like, ugh, agendas. Now I'm like, where's the agenda, right? So you just you learn that that's how you run a business, and don't be so resistant to it. Doesn't mean you aren't entrepreneurial. It doesn't mean you're not cool, but professionalizing the business is really important.
Yeah, I would build on that. I think we learned this the hard way. Thankfully, things worked out well. But that structure really enables scale, and it's really that creativity, the brand, and the culture that propels the growth. And so don't be afraid of what that structure looks like. And a piece that I want to touch on, too, is I reflect on where we are now. And literally with this new venture, it did start with an org chart, which is like a little cringe for me to say, thinking about when we started, but it absolutely is the way to start. But I look back at when we started the business, we didn't know anybody in consumer. We had no network. We had no access to capital, no access to strategic suppliers, strategic partners, strategic vendors, whomever that may be. And so what I would challenge you all to do if you are starting a business and finding it difficult to say, hey, listen, I know that I need to build a team. I just don't have those people. I don't know who they are. Spend some time to network and find the most connected, most plugged in, most successful person that you know, and do whatever it takes to get them on board. And the way that we're doing it this time around is really putting together what your advisory board could look like. Making sure that you're willing to give some piece of equity to those advisors. Whoever that most successful person, that most connected person is, like, be willing to give them a piece of your company to say, hey, these are the deliverables that I want from you. I want access to your network. I want to be able to use your name. Help surround me with great people and get me connected, because at the end of the day, when you're trying to get the business off the ground, you don't have the money, and a lot of the times you don't have the resources. So just work hard to find that one person that's going to believe in you, and make sure that your incentives are aligned with some sort of equity package, and it'll be incredible to see how they really lean in and support and surround you with all of the right pieces and all of the right people that you need.
So just for the headline of this is you do have an org chart for a new venture. Do I have that right?
I think it was literally like, okay, this is the new business. Second slide was org chart.
All right, great. Well, we're paying attention. We can't wait to find out what it is. Let's do a little bit of a speed round. What is something that you wish you had started sooner before selling the company? What's a bit of prep that people should bear in mind if they plan to sell a company 2 years, 5 years, 10 years down the road?
Well, thankfully, I'm pretty boring, apparently, and I like spreadsheets. So I made a lot of mistakes, but sort of planning for a liquidity event wasn't one of those. I would say if you do have plans of building and starting and selling a business, it's really important to get connected with some sort of like personal wealth advisor that can really help you plan for the future and make sure that you're taking care of yourself and your family and everyone else.
And so, as you look out at where Poppi can go, what are you most excited about, and where do you think that brand is going next?
Yeah, I think for me it's the on-premise type things that we didn't have access to, the college campuses, the Subways, the Starbucks of the world, because it just was not possible. I mean, we were getting like cease and desist if we were sampling on college campuses, and college was such like a big piece of who we were. I'm super excited. We just launched the UK, right? And to have those resources to be able to do stuff like that. So I think at the end of the day, I want Poppi to be the soda my kids and grandkids know is soda, and now this is like more possible than ever.
Stephen, you recently spoke to the National Governors Association about sort of the future of American entrepreneurship and prosperity. Do you feel as optimistic about American entrepreneurship going forward as you did when you were building Poppi?
I do. I think that us as humans are so capable. Our ability to push through and reset our baseline every year, like we need to believe in ourselves that we have the capability, and we need to put ourselves in the position to grow. Is it more challenging now than it was before? Maybe, but I don't think that we should let that be an excuse. I think that we just need to look at the world and, like I said, identify the things that have changed and really use our willpower and everything around us to just power through it. Because at the end of the day, the American dream is alive and well.
And Allison, right, the applause line. Allison, last question for you. Where do you see consumer behavior going? You've had like your finger on the pulse of consumer behavior for so long. Where do you think it might be going next, and what gets you excited about that?
I think that they're smarter than ever, right? The consumer knows what they want. They still want better for you products as well. And I think that people kind of can see through the bullshit, right? Of if you're not a brand standing on what your values and what your mission are, I think people are sick of, everyone trying to say, I'm authentic. Like, authentic is such an annoying word. And so it's like, okay, well, what does that actually mean, right? And so I think that better for you is still going to be huge. I think AI is going to make our lives as business owners so much easier. I don't think you should be scared of it. I think you should use it, use the tools, network. Do not be scared of it. And I think at the end of the day, in 5 years, it's going to be completely different, if not even sooner, because we are moving so rapidly with AI that, every month it's different.
Great. Well, let's leave it there. Allison Ellsworth, Stephen Ellsworth, the co-founders of Poppi, sold for $1.9 billion to Pepsi. Thanks so much for being here at Inc. Founders House, and thank you.